right, everyone. So thank you for taking the time to come today. My name is Ali, and I'm a cloud solution architect. And it's actually Michael's fault that I'm here to talk about multi-context protocol because he was the reason that I actually learned about it. I'm a cloud solution architect. I work within the domain which is called app modernization, which can mean a lot of things, but most of all, we help customers to migrate to Azure. And I work in the global organization, so my team reports to Redmond, and we engage with customers around the globe. So we switch context a lot, and we see a lot of things, and we engage with a lot of people, and a lot of fun experiences. Anyway, so today I'm gonna talk about Semantic Kernel, which is an orchestrator to make API calls to solve some kind of problem in a solution that you have. We have two, I think, isn't it two official? Isn't it, Michael? We have Autogen and Semantic. We have no other frameworks than that, right? Maybe some other. Yeah, so we have two main orchestrators. And when I say orchestrators, it's like how we think is the best way to call the APIs, like the AI APIs, in order to achieve something and the goals in your application. And those two main frameworks is Autogen and the Semantic Kernel. And in our campus, we have one building for Autogen. I met them a couple of weeks ago. And we have one building for Semantic Kernel. And sometimes people assume that they work against each other, but they don't. They're actually collaborating. The Autogen team will tend to go a little bit further sometimes and experiment, because it's like more like research based. Whereas the Semantic Kernel team, they will get proposed or they will like discuss with the Autogen team what is a good idea to do in production. And then Semantic Kernel is our official production ready SDK if you want to implement some kind of AI in your solution. And this is also the same SDK that we use in our own products, basically. But I will get into that. So I have not put an agenda because I just want to see like the things you think is boring, we'll just skip it, and the things you want to discuss more about, we'll just stay on those topics. So we just take it as they come. And I like to keep my sessions interactive. So if any questions, just raise your hand. I mean, the reason here is to not for monoliths, just for me to talk to you, but also that you talk back, and I actually learn just as much as you learn in these type of sessions. So just raise your hand with any questions. So first question I want to ask is that what can ChatGPT or the large language models not do out of the box before we try to discuss what we can do? What can we not do out of the box? Yeah. We're gonna consume. Okay, you're getting straight to the point. Does it know like how is the weather right now? I mean, so yeah, it's something static, right? Does it know? Okay, you give it some data payload, but the next time when you come back, does it know what you asked for? No, not the language. I'm talking about the raw large language model. How, so what else can it not do? So real time, browse the web, real time APIs, those kind of things. Yeah. So out of the box, it can't do much, right? So everything that comes on top, this is something that maybe we as a community invent or a product group invent or we as Microsoft, oh, this is the best idea to do, but this comes on top of it, right? So we have search and embeddings, and this is, I mean, now I see customers and projects that do other things, but most of the initial demos that I've seen is just chat with your own data, right? And this is where you need search. And of course, when you have a search resource, then it's based on something which was indexed, let's say yesterday, right? So we don't know how is the weather right now, what is the financial trend right now, what just happened just 2 seconds ago. We can't use that, right? Because the search is something that you indexed some time ago, so it's something historical. So we want to, I think, if you want to solve something more sophisticated, real time, we need to also think, okay, how else do we do this, right? And rather than besides only then indexing some unstructured data to chat with it, right? So yeah, it's historical. Plus, you want to solve real-time problems. So if you want to do automation, you want to take decision in real time, we need to do some kind of different kind of orchestration, right? So we need some glue between the APIs and the code that we write. That's basically the idea. So I have one example here. This is, I think, 2-3 years ago now. We had a big customer in the Middle East that had 5,000 milestone cameras, and they got a new requirement from the government that they had to register the cars that access the facility and the cars that exit the facility. And before generative AI, it would just maybe be a more low practical registration, where you would just maybe have a sensor that just registers, okay, this is a car that passed, but we don't know what is a car or how big it is or anything, but we just assume that this object that just passed was a car, and maybe you need a human intervention to then register it, right? and then what do you do after work hours? So when there's no people at the gate, then you still want to audit and you want to understand who comes in and out of those security gates, right? So before using generative AI, then this was more like a low practical registration and with human intervention. But then one of the things that I think that is now possible that we then did as an improvement is to do like better registration, right? Because most of the demos that I see is just like, okay, ChatGPT just answers some questions and it solves some problems, but you can also use it in a more autonomous way, right? So in this case, like they say that, okay, we want to like the government want to have more granular report of what is type of the vehicles that access the facility, and what is the attributes on those vehicles, right? So with using vision and large language model, then we could actually classify the cars coming in and out. So you can say, instead of saying, okay, it's just a car with this license plate, then you can actually say that, okay, what is the type of the car? What color is it? Does it have any damages on it? Does it have a weapon on it? And then you can classify the data much better, right? So basically doing data cleansing. And this is one of the things that I feel like it's a little bit overlooked, because it's not just about you can use ChatGPT to answer some questions, but you can also use it in an autonomous way. And imagine that if you can classify this data, then the audits that the government will do will be much better output, because they understand exactly which vehicles came in and came out, and did anything happen to it, and did they leave the area when they had to, not just by number, right? So those are one of the things that I think that can also help us. Yeah. 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 So imagine that I take a picture of a car and I use a vision model, and it tells me, oh, this is a car, and it gives me X, Y coordinates or something like that. Like it just describes to me, like by object description, like how big it is. If there's license plate, does it? Then I have like a regular expression to decide, is this license plate an actual valid license plate? Um, but with the large language model, we could actually say that, okay, I want to first of all know what color it is, what type of vehicle is it, and then we gave it like 5 categories. So we gave it a schema as an input, and then it gave us the output exactly what we want. So we classify the car perfectly. Does this make sense? I will go through a lot of code today. Hopefully, I have a lot of code with me. So, but actually, every time you chat with let's say ChatGPT, it's not. You can also define a schema. So when you just give it some data, just return the schema. It doesn't necessarily have to return an answer in natural language. That's a possibility that I think is actually very powerful. But imagine this could be any kind of assets. It could be financial assets. It could be stocks. It can be anything. You know. And I'm doing other implementations with our customers currently where they are using similar kind of technique. Yeah. we couldn't detect the brand. I think there's an API for it, but we couldn't take the brand, but we could at least classify the color and the license plate, and if it's damaged, does it have any weapons on it, like those kind of things. So we a number of attributes we could classify it, and this was correct. So because like this facility, they needed to know like, of this car is blue and it has all of these attributes with this license plate. Is it the same car with the same license plate that exited the facility after some hours, or did it change license plate? They needed to match those things. So this was a requirement. I don't know. Does that answer the question? There could be, I guess. Then you need to train it. You mean like which brand it is? Yeah. Then you need to train it, right? But we used the more. We didn't train anything specific, to be honest. So that's why we couldn't classify what brand of car, like what brand it is. But that would just be a question of training it, I believe. Yeah. But I will get into a lot of code later on. So yeah. So I'm just having a more abstract discussion now, but hopefully things will clarify later. So, anyone know what a kernel is, or have an idea of what a kernel is? Feel free to guess. You can also guess if you want, Michael. Anyone know? Yeah, server. Okay, something that manages resources, maybe computer resources, memory, or I don't know. What do you think? What do you think? Just guess. It's okay. It's okay. Sorry. Yeah, in a computer kernel, like when you have a yeah, like when you have a computer, like what is it? What would you categorize as being a kernel? Let's say I have a Windows machine. Sorry? Core of the operating system that manages the resources, which threads to execute at a time. So make sure that the computer works, right? Kind of. Because I always when someone presents something to me, I try to understand. Okay, why does it have the name that it has? Why is it called semantic kernel? There must be some meaning behind it, right? So I tried to actually ask OpenAI, what is it? And it says a kernel can have different meanings depending on the context. Isn't that exactly what you said? I need to give you a sticker. In machine learning, a kernel is a method that allows us to apply linear classifiers to nonlinear problems by mapping nonlinear data into higher dimensional space. So that for me is a little bit related to this, that you get a lot of abstract data and you try to somehow classify it and get some sense out of it, right? Kind of. Okay. So another weird question. What skill? For me, again, working at Microsoft, I'm also trying every day to find out. Besides subscribing to Michael, I try to think to myself, how can I stay relevant to Microsoft? Because I have to think about that. But now, as we all IT people, I want to ask you this question: what skill do you think would be very important to have, and what skill do you think an employee will pay you for, let's say 5 or 6 years from now? And don't think that I know it. Okay, though you were very quick. I think I again don't think I know the question the answer. I don't. I just know the same thing as yeah. Adaptability. Okay. Yeah. The new trends, and someone say prompts, communication. So soft skills or what? Fortune teller. Yeah. Creative thinking. What is your reason you said prompt? Why did you say that? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Any other suggestions? No, I'm not asking like. Okay. But that was more like a prompt. Yeah. But you think vibe coding? Yeah. Prompt engineer. Yeah. But do you think so you think is this because if you had to choose one skill to say, okay, I'm gonna live off this for the next 10 years, what would it be then? Then it would be prompt engineering. I don't know. We can come. We can meet again in 5 years, 6 years. Say, but I'm just also trying to understand how you guys think because Yeah, okay. So now another weird question. I mean, we'll get to the point. I know always when I start my presentation, it's a little bit weird because I just talk around a little bit. But so hopefully at some point of time it will have some clarity. Okay, so I love chocolate cake. My foot hurts, but the weather is great. It might be because the world is flat. Anyway, I wonder how I can make one. What is this? Yeah, yeah. Things are flying around. Yeah, there's no. I'm giving you a lot of weird information. Hopefully, at some point of time, it will sort out. Yeah, I'm hallucinating exactly. So for me, I'm not a. I will maybe in 5 years I'll not be relevant because I'm hallucinating too much. So, but what is this? It's a prompt. Multitasking. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me try. Uh, okay. Let me try one thing. Uh, Let me just take a very random search engine here. Let me put this in. So it gives me a result that says living with a broken heart, chocolate cake lyrics, 3,000 most common words in English. Okay, that's a very random. So does the search engine does it make any sense of what I just put in here? Doesn't really understand, right? So this seems to be a very little bit confused person, right? If or the person that asked or wrote this. I wrote it. I'm hallucinating. I'm really okay. So if you look at it from a large language model perspective, then if this is one context or one prompt, then this would just go in and I mean, sorry, if it's a classic search, then this would just go in and you saw the result on Google, right? That it doesn't really understand. But we, with our human intelligence, do we understand that? Okay, okay. Now I actually kind of exposed it, but what is the intention of the person? Cooking. I mean, okay. Now use your human intelligence. What is the intention of the person? Read it again. To make a cake. That's a very simple request. You don't need AI to figure that out. I love chocolate cake. My foot hurts. This is another context. The weather is great. That's another data set. There's another context. The world might be flat, but I wonder how I can make it. We, with our human intelligence, we understand the person is saying that the person loves chocolate cake and wonder how they can make one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, my point is that we, with our human intelligence, we understand that this is a bad question or is a bad prompt, basically, right? Because we are hopefully intelligent enough to say that this is a little bit confusing compared to what the person is asking for, right? And we put into the flat search or to the Google search, or it can also be like Bing, but it's a little bit better actually. It will give us this random answers about lyrics and whatever it was. So with the AI, it will understand that, okay, if I ask it what is the intention of this, then it will actually understand this is one context, this is another context, the weather is great is another context, and the world is flat is another context, but this one is the same context, right? I mean, I don't know exactly how the language, but I know like this is just how it, if you think about the context wise, right? Yeah. 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 But your point is that what is? Yeah. It is. It's For sure, it is a confused statement or question or prompt, right? That we can agree on for sure, right? It's a weird statement, or yeah, I I just wrote this with blind eyes, or yeah, yeah, yeah. So okay, I'll get to the point now of this hallucination that I'm doing now. My point is that maybe it's gonna be a required skill that you understand the problem domain you're in, so you can articulate the right question. So whether you're going to be a doctor or a developer, it's not going to be 100% redundant to have the education in that domain, because I think you still need to be able to articulate and ask the question within that domain. You need to understand the domain to ask the right question. So if I'm a person that wants to, I don't know, make a chocolate cake, I need to understand what I'm actually asking for. So I think it's going to be an important factor. And why I'm mentioning this is because now when we're writing our applications and our cloud native applications, in those applications, somewhere we're going to write something in natural language that's hopefully semantically is going to lead us to the program to do something that we hope for is the solution, right? So I think it's not just going to be how you use it day to day, but also in the programs that you guys as developers or builders, you have to also ask the right questions in the code to achieve those goals, right? So I think it's not just like something you use. Okay, how do I make coffee? It's also about, okay, if I have to build something for a customer, do I know how to ask the right questions to get those right parameters and execute it the right way, right? And we will get in more into detail with that. So I think it's an important skill also to be able to ask the right question. Yeah. Also, when you write the application itself, because in the code, whether you use AutoGen or Semantic Kernel or whatever framework you use in that code, I'm gonna have to define some semantic or some things in the natural language that's gonna lead the program to that direction that I want, right? And that's prompting. It's prompting still, right? It's just in the code because I mean you have to define maybe you have we'll get into it like more technically, but still think prompting or being able to ask the right question is something a skill you need to do when you write your AI applications uh, to achieve your goals in real time, not just chat with your own data. But I'm going to show you some more examples. Anyway, I'm going to skip these slides a little bit faster. So the SDK that we use, which is officially production ready, is Semantic Kernel, and this is the same SDKs we use in our commercial products. So I'm going to skip a little bit faster to this. How much time did I already use? So I have 20 minutes left, because then I have to skip. Okay, then I have to go very fast. Okay, so anyway, it's gonna be, yeah, because I have too many demos. I'm gonna skip a little bit faster here, here. Okay, so the plugins. So chat with PDF files, all of it. I'm not gonna talk about that. But plugins is basically the building block for Semantic Kernel, and the plugins is what's where you define the prompts that then is going to connect to some kind of data source or some kind of structured API, and then it's going to execute it based on what you ask for. So if I have a weather API, I'm going to show you some demos. Then if I ask for how is the weather in Malmö, then that should translate into the location into longitude, latitude, and then call an a weather API, and then we'll answer that question. But the plugins is basically where you define the prompts together with the data connections that you have to the different data sources or the APIs that you want to connect to. And yeah, exactly. So if I have a weather app, a weather AI app, if I ask how is the weather in Copenhagen compared to the weather in, I don't know, Barcelona, then this requires two API calls, right? So this is something which is called the planner. I don't know if yeah, and this is something called the planner. So the planner is first. So when you ask a question, the semantic kernel will first send the whole prompt and everything to the AI, and then when it gets response back, it will make a plan for you to say, okay, this person had two intentions or like one intention, but two AI API calls, because the person asked how is the weather in Copenhagen compared to the weather in Barcelona. So this will require two API calls. So in order to do this, it's not just one API call, right? It's going to be one API call to the AI, then response, then the semantic kernel. Okay, this is semantically means weather in Copenhagen and weather in Barcelona. So I need to do these two additional calls to answer the question of the person, and then compare the weather. Yeah, 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 yeah. Yes, yes, it can. So there's a the if there happens any kind of errors or issues, you can actually you can make a fallback to say, okay, if you don't answer this from this data source, then fall back to the original source or something like. You can define all of these things. You can really customize it however you want. But out of the box, there's different framework. There's another framework which is called process framework. I will try to get into that also. But out of the box, it's you're not building something deterministic. So it's not like a workflow. But we have now process workflow. So if you want to define something which achieves something in a specific order, let's say you want to sign up for a page, or you want a travel planner, then you can use process workflow. So as an example, if I want to travel, if I say, okay, I want to make me a travel to Barcelona, including everything, hotel and the airplane, then it cannot book the hotel before it knows the dates of the plane, right? So it needs to have managed state throughout the execution. But I will show that also. Let me just jump to the demos a little bit quick here, because I know I think I'll be out of time very quickly. Okay. There's a lot of information to grasp now, and I'm also going to give you links later to my open source repository. But these demos, some of the things we can achieve. I don't think, because we have so little time, we won't be able to go so deep with them, but I will try to answer questions as we go. So the first one is one agent. So one agent, I will categorize that as one AI that have one system prompt. Does anyone know what a system prompt is? Anyone does not know what a system prompt is? So everyone knows it. You don't know it. Okay. So when you start building an agent, let's say, then you first have to define what is the purpose of this agent, right? So if I use GitHub Copilot, does everyone know GitHub Copilot or no? Yeah. Then that has a system prompt that says your intention is to help the user to write code, something like that, right? So there's intention with it. In this demo, I'm just having one agent that have several plugins or several capabilities. So the AI, the ChatGPT or the OpenAI model itself is stateless, right? But when I put in the first question, then I have to also define all the tools that I have, all the plugins that I have. So I have to say, okay, you should be able to call the weather, you should be able to exchange money, you should be able to, and I need to define what is the capabilities. So when the response comes back from the AI or from the API, then I can say, oh, now there's intention to get the weather for Barcelona. There's an intention to get the weather for Copenhagen with those parameters. And this is something the response is going to explain to the semantic kernel, and the semantic kernel know which methods to call. Does it make sense? Feel free to ask me if because I'm here to answer questions, right? So let me just look at to this demo. I have a lot of demos, but so in here, first one, I'm saying how is the weather. So, and this is the session. So the session is the conversation, and the conversation is a text payload that I'm sending to the API every time, right? So first I say, okay, how is the weather? It knows that, okay, the person wants to call that plugin, but it doesn't know what is the location, because that's a parameter. So this could also be a parameter to call a SQL query or whatever, but this is a parameter that needed for the weather API is to know what is the location that you want the weather for. Yes. In my code, and I'm going to give you the code later. I have open source repositories. Then I'm going to find, okay, like this is in the code I have an annotation that says you need to if the person asks for a location, you need to convert it to longitude latitude, because this is the parameters that the API needs. And then this is the red one is the method. So in the method, it's gonna why does it have this? Can remove? Okay, it's gonna convert it to these two parameters, and then this is the summary of the weather from this method. I mean, I didn't return the payload, the native payload, and then I say how is the weather in Manila compared to the weather in New York. Then it knows, and the planner knows that it needs to call it twice. And the blue ones is the session outline. So user, assistant, user, tool, and this one is, you can see, assistant, tool times, because it knows that it had to call the tool 2 times, because it's like tool means the method. So it's just for you to understand. Yeah, visual. Yeah. What do you mean exactly? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. So you can say that. So yeah. Articulate the question again. So the plan is going to say that after this question, when I'm done with this summary, then I have answered the question. And if an exception happens, there's some kind of retry policy, and if it does it, if it has an exception, it will say, oh, I tried to get the weather, but something bad happened. Like it won't give you the actual exception. Yeah, yeah, bad weather. Yeah, weather storm. But this is the session. So all of this is going to be sent to the LLM every time, because LLM out of the box is stateless. It doesn't know what happened just last API call. I have to put the whole conversation each time. Does it make sense? Yeah. Yeah. When you the OpenAI API definition, it has something called function, like the JSON response. For every word, there's a JSON response. Actually, I know it doesn't look like this, but when you get a response from LLM from OpenAI format schema, then every word will have a JSON response, and in that JSON response, there's a field called functions, and this functions will say, oh, weather, longitude, latitude, weather, longitude, latitude, able to find, and then, so before the semantic kernel summarize the answer, it was, oh, there's actually 3 function calls here. I need to plan to execute this before I give the final answer. Yeah. 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 No. If the LLM or the semantic kernel enhanced LLM interaction just answers without no function call, then there's useless of using semantic kernel. There's no need, because that would be exactly the same answer as if you just go on ChatGPT and enter exactly the same, no difference. No, no. There's no overhead in pricing or additional tokens. It is the contract for the OpenAI. The schema definition is the same. Yeah. But how much of the scope of the conversation you put in, that's how much you pay for. So as an example, I have a WhatsApp for 30,000 users right now. I just put in the last 5 messages in the. So if the person asks for what happened 10 messages ago, I would just say, oh, I don't know, have that memory. Yeah. 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 Because why couldn't it answer the question? Because it know that the required parameter is location, but it kind of felt like, okay, his or her intention is to get the weather. So and I know there's one more required parameter, then I can achieve that goal, which is called get weather. Does it make sense? Yeah. Yes, it will figure out and say how many intentions did the person have in this. Yeah, and that's why I think sometimes when people think, okay, I just give the ChatGPT 10 problems, it's going to solve everything at one time, is no. If it doesn't solve it, that means you need to crop. We need to use our engineering skills. Then you need to crop the problem into smaller chunks, solve it, and solve it out. Because too many intentions is, yeah, then you're going to have hallucination like the beginning of my presentation, right? Yeah. Yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah. Huh? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Let me because I have not even one third of my presentation. But okay. Let me go through all the demos and explain, and then let's try to. And this one is trying to. I'm using my WhatsApp to get the real time information, and I'm computing the different APIs. So I have one plugin. This was the airport of. I have different airports I worked with, but it's all we want to have real time chat to get the arrivals, and I'm just asking when will the arrival arrive at Dubai Airport, and then it knows there's a plugin for Dubai Airport, there's a plugin for Washington Airport, there's a plugin for all common number of different airports. So even if it doesn't say which airport, then it will actually try to figure out which plugin it is. Yeah. So okay, let me just go a little bit faster. So I'm just saying that besides the console lab, you can actually build real applications with it, right? And we're doing this for customers. Let me just go a little bit faster. Okay. And one more is here. This is a bit unsafe, but sometimes I have a lot of sometimes I have few customers which are very big, and they say we don't have an overview of our GitHub organization and enterprise. Can we make a chatbot where we can ask how many licenses do we have assigned, how many build failures do we have, so you can kind of have an overview of your whole enterprise. And I'm also using Semantic Kernel in this case to interact with the GitHub organization. So if I'm a DevOps manager or some kind of developer lead, whatever, for the whole organization, then I can also build a semantic kernel, AI against the APIs, and then get that overview very quickly instead of having to go into click to each organization and to settings and how many assigns, how many seats do I have assigned, how much are they paying? I can just do it with this integration, right? I'm just going to skip through this also very quick. It's just to show you that it's very powerful, and this is the same SDK that we use in our products also. So it's just the imagination, right? And then I can kick off a build, but I don't recommend that you do that in production. So because potentially you can say, kick off 1,000 builds, and then it's gonna cost a lot of money. Right? It's not great. But let me just go a little faster. So here, no wait, yeah, I can open the issue here. So I just say open the issue. I can trigger builds. So basically, I can do essentially everything. It's just the imagination. With Semantic Kernel, you can do everything basically. It's there is a NuGet package for Semantic Kernel, and then you just have APIs that you need to connect to. And that's why the reason I'm here is because we have something called model context protocol, which is going to make it much easier for you. So you don't even have to write those integrations anymore. It's going to be done for you. You just need to import it, and that's it. And just need to have a conversation. And it's, yeah, maybe I'll be jobless. I don't know. Next time you'll meet me, I will, I don't know, do something else. Yeah. Yeah. So the challenge, as you just said, do you have to import the GitHub? So I need to understand those APIs. If I need to interact with GitHub, I need to understand the GitHub API. If I have to interact with Dubai Airport, I need to understand Dubai Airport API or Washington API. So I need to understand those API. Or if I want to interact with something else, right? So that also usually would require a lot of time, right? I use license. I can show you the code. Let me do it after the session but in the code I have defined API and annotation. But I will show you the code. I will give you all the code so you can look into it. But all of that is there. But I just need to go a little bit faster because I have too many things. Okay. Have you heard about multi-agent? Well, okay. So there is also a functionality which a lot of frameworks are presenting, which they say, oh, a lot of agents can talk to each together and save the world or do something really complex. Have you ever heard about this? I don't know, hype. So we have the same hype, stupid hype in the semantic kernel as well. I'm not 100% agreeing with it, but the idea here is that let's say you have a program manager that decides how the software when should it be released, how should it look like. Then you have the software engineer, and then you have the products. I don't know, product system. What was the intention of this? So I wrote the intention of each role for them to solve the problem, and then I can say write a program for me. How much time do I have left? Okay. Is it boring? Okay. Because I have to eat with Michael later. Maybe we just let's just just finish so we can go and eat. No. So there is one. So the other demo that I showed you is one agent, many intentions. Okay, one intention could be get the weather. One intention could be get a rival. Another intention could be how to I don't know, cook a pizza or whatever, right? But in this case, we have 3 agents to solve one, let's say, more complex problem. One complex problem could be write a front-end page for me with a calculator, something like that. There is a parameter here, which is called maximum iterations. And this means that this group of people or group of agents will chat with each other, but with a maximum number of 15 API calls before they say, okay, let's stop now. Do you think this is a good or bad idea? Yeah, I mean, what do you think about this? So when the customer, when Michael and we could talk to the customer, the first they're gonna ask us how much it's gonna cost. I cannot tell them, oh, maybe it's gonna cost you $1 million in a bad day, maybe $15 million. So I cannot tell them after at a very large scale. You cannot tell the customer that I don't know, maybe it's going to cost you $2 million or $10 million before you solve the problem. It's not something deterministic. It's just like, it's like fire and forget. Fire and forget means like, I give you a problem, I hope you solve it after some amount of money, but I'm not sure. We don't, it's like we hope for the best. Yes, it's a known pattern now, unfortunately, in all framework. Personally, I'm not saying what I'm saying is correct, but personally, and this is not Microsoft opinion, it's my own opinion. I don't agree with it because it's what does it actually mean? It's like, okay, I'll close my eyes, give you a lot of money, just solve my problem, but I don't know after how many iterations you do it. It's not a good. We as engineers, we know what we want to solve, and we should be able to give a deterministic solution, not like someone else would solve that for, yeah. Exactly, exactly. So you know what task you want to solve in which order, and you manage some kind of state. So we as engineers or whatever that is not the case here. Each agent has its own color. And at some point of time, so I think I asked it to make a calculator or something like that. And at some point of time, one of them has said, "Oh, now I'm done." I don't know which one of them, but any of them can say, we are done. This is no the product owner. I think is the decisive one. Then now this can make a to-do list. So I mean, the result is not bad, but it's how much did it cost me? $10 million or $2 million, or you know, if I know what my requirements were from the beginning, then I could define something that okay, it's not going to cost me more than this to build something like that. Does it make sense? So the pattern is there. You can use it, but I would say use it with cautious. I mean, I yes, I said yes. Build a to-do list for me. And now let's see the next one. So and it actually kind of works. So maybe in one prompt, maybe it would not do it as good. It did something kind of impressive, but you know, yeah. To what cost? Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. That's the so next we have a framework now called process framework, and I even talked to our vice president on Semantic Kernel on this. We are trying to control this because we need defined agents and with defined workflows and state management because you want to solve a specific problem, not just any problem with some kind of randomness cost. And there's something called process framework. I'm going to show you that, and that's what I use. Something called travel pen. I'm going to show it there too. What did I ask for here? Let me just see. Did anyone catch it? Or okay, here I'm asking. Okay, the next question I'm asking here: design a weather app with large emojis for 3 days and starting with. So I'm just asking for make a weather app. Yeah, and then it knows that okay, if the programmer have access to have an API for weather, then it's going to utilize that. So it's going to utilize the capability of each agent, right? Yeah, then it makes something like this.